Hey everybody, I am Kevin Iole for Yahoo Sports. My guest right now is one of the fastest rising fighters that you will ever see. Less than 2 years ago, he was about to make his UFC debut, and now he is the middleweight champion of the world, Israel Adesanya. Israel?
Kevin, pleasure,
I
brother.
appreciate you, my brother.
No worries.
You have a very big fight coming up in March at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, UFC 248. You're fighting Yoel Romero. First of all, why Yoel Romero? Dana White, I talk to Dana pretty much every day, and he always has to tell me, nobody wants to fight Yoel Romero.
Yeah.
But I said, I know a guy that wants to fight Yoel Romero.
Yeah.
Why is it? Why do you want to fight this guy?
Because I'm not nobody. I'm a different kind of guy. I'm a guy that seeks out the challenges, you know. And Yoel is coming off a 3-fight losing streak. That's not good for business, you know. So even trying to sell that fight to the UFC, they didn't want to put it on.
Right.
Dana's a very he's impressionable, so I can convince him when I make sense. Because you know, if it makes dollars, it makes sense.
Exactly.
So I talk to him and let him know this is the fight that we want for so and so reasons. And pretty much, he's a guy, like you said, that no one wants to fight. So that makes me want to fight even more. I want to know, why is everyone so scared of this human? He is human. At the end of the day, he's just another guy who bleeds if you cut him. He sweats and he gasses out. So, and I don't gas out.
He is a big dude. Those muscles take oxygen.
Exactly.
The one thing that I think, people would look at the two of you and say, this is an Olympic silver medalist wrestler. He can control where the fight goes against you, and that, you maybe would be at a disadvantage in a fight like that if he can get his hands on you. That's a good point, right? How do you overcome that wrestling disadvantage?
Well, I can control where the fight goes as well because of my footwork. Like I said, wrestling doesn't always start straight away from the clinch. It starts from the feet, where your feet are placed. And he's flat-footed. I am not. I have really good footwork. And also, when he gets his hands on you, it's hard to get your hands on me when you can't see me.
Right.
And he keeps saying, "I see you soon, boy." No, you won't.
You're going to be a little elusive in that cage.
Exactly.
The thing that's remarkable was, like I said, your success in MMA. I know you had fought MMA years ago, and you went to kickboxing, and you were an elite kickboxer. You end up, and I watched it last night, unfortunately, your fight with Alex Pereira, your rematch, and he KOs you with a left hand. And I sit there, and if I stop the clock after that fight is over, and I say, Israel Adesanya, one of the better kickboxers in the world, but you're not a star. People don't know you. People aren't running out on the street to get your autograph. Now here we are 2 years later. You're in MMA, and you're one of the biggest stars. You might be the successor to Conor McGregor as the biggest seller in the game. How did this happen?
Belief in myself, belief in my own game, belief in what I can do. Because like you said, a lot of people after a fight like that, my last kickboxing fight, they would have been out, like completely washed. But for me, I realized, look, this is just part of the game. If my coach told me, if you fight long enough, everyone loses eventually. And losses aren't always just there to put you down. You learn from them. And, I'm the guy he won the battle, I won the war, because I don't care about any of his fights.
Right.
And he watches every single one of my fights.
Right.
Every single one. And I'm getting played, a lot more than he was, or he is right now. But, for me, it's just faith, belief in myself, and knowing where I'm supposed to go. I never get my belief shaken by a little stumble like that, I always make sure I rise above the occasion and rise, to where I'm supposed to be.
What your fight with Marvin Vettori, you won by split decision, and that might have been the only fight that you had in the UFC where you looked human almost.
Yeah.
I think your Anderson Silva fight too, because of the respect you had for Anderson.
Yeah.
But in the Vettori fight, it looked like people were saying maybe higher level guys might be able to deal with you at that point. What was your take on that one? That was your second UFC fight.
Yeah, my second UFC fight, and I think a lot of people, because of that third round, and I said it was just because I was thinking too much. I wasn't flowing. The first 2 rounds, I was cleaning him up. I was lighting him up, and he's a guy that popped as well for banned substances, so who knows how that helped him in that fight. But, I was lighting him up. You saw me hit the matrix twice in that fight.
Right.
Where I almost hit the floor with the lean back.
Yep.
And even just grazed my nose with his toes because he changed the kick up. And I was doing my work, but in the third round, he had a single leg that I didn't break his grip of my hip. I should have broken his grip on my hip, and my coach fixed that instantly. That night, we fixed it instantly, and it's never happened again. So I looked human, and he clings onto that like he won the fight, but I'm like, yeah, you can keep thinking that.
your coach, Eugene Mirman, has got to be one of the best coaches in the world, if not the best. And what is it going to take for this guy to get recognition? He's coaches you. He's got Alex Volkanovski. He's got a lot of really good fighters in that camp down there.
Yeah.
Obviously, you guys are doing something right. You're getting the recognition. What's it going to take for Eugene to get out there and have people consider him one of the elite coaches in the world?
I think time. It's already happening now. He's already been nominated for a prestigious award in New Zealand. He's already been noted now as one of the best coaches in the world, as Coach of the Year by a lot of media outlets. I think just time and the work that we keep doing, because we just had our second world title in the gym from the UFC, which is Alex Volkanovski. I think it's just time and people putting their prejudice aside, for a little on New Zealand.
Right.
They think, we always had that in our head, like you have to go to America, you have to go to one of these big gyms to make it, to really get the best work. But I've been around the world and I realized I had it good back home.
Right.
So that's what keeps me back home is them.
Why is it, do you think, like you think of boxing and, before you walked in, we were talking about Freddie Roach, and trainers are almost like celebrities, Freddie Roach and Emmanuel Stewart when he was alive, and, Floyd Mayweather Sr. was a big name trainer. They get that in boxing. In MMA, it doesn't seem a lot of the trainers is it because there's so many different aspects to MMA and so many coaches, or why do you think that is?
There's some coaches that, do get the limelight, Faraz Zahabi, Greg Jackson, Henry Hooft, and Eugene Mirman. He's starting to understand the role he's in now, so he has to embrace it as a public figure. So he's a guy that he prefers to just be behind the scenes. But a lot of coaches sometimes don't. But I think in time, and also MMA is a relatively new sport. That's the thing. And in the grand scheme of things, it's only been around since 1992, 1991, 1993.
93.
Yeah, but I mean like the Valetudo and stuff like that. But so I think it's just time and patience. Yeah.
You, in my mind, you kind of epitomize what the next generation of fighter is going to be like. How do you see MMA developing, and what do you think will be different about MMA 10 years from now than it is right now, if you think about the evolution of the athletes and what's going on?
I think now that you're starting to see the big money come into MMA, because everyone keeps saying the same thing to me about, you should go to boxing after a few UFC fights and fight boxing. I'm like, why? Why would I limit myself to just 2 weapons of my 8 limbs that I can use, And for me, I feel like it's a step backwards, because you look at Conor McGregor now, he's estimated to make $80 million plus from that Cowboy fight, 40-second starching of Cowboy. It's a little, small change. So I'm like, there's no need to go to boxing to make that kind of money. We can do it right here in the UFC. The playing field just has to change. The playing field has to change, and you have to know what you're worth. And it's happening slowly. I think it's happening slowly. I feel it as well, and I know it because it's happening for me.
I did a story last week after Kobe Bryant had passed away. I talked to Royce White, who's managed by your management company, Paradigm Sports, and he's trying to get into MMA, left the NBA to get in and fight in NBA. And he told me, and this echoes something that Greg Hardy had said earlier. Greg Hardy thought NFL players would start to, guys who now go to football would stop and maybe come into MMA. And Royce said to me he thought that you would see that in basketball, that guys who were playing basketball and grow up as college basketball players and go to the NBA would maybe look to fight. Have you talked to kids, and have you talked to people, and do you start to sense that you see a trend where they're starting to see MMA as a viable career path?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, even in New Zealand, because, our sport was kind of shunned by a lot of the media for so long because it's not a real sport, quote unquote. But once they see the work that we put in, the countless hours constantly watching tape, studying the opponent, breaking down their game plan, doing our game plan to get ready for them, they start to realize like this is a legit full-time job. This is a legit sport with nuances. It's not just 2 guys having a scrap. But now they're starting to get that worldwide recognition as well. And let's face it, look, everyone wants to be the baddest motherfucker. Everyone wants to be the baddest dude. And that's what everyone does when they're trying to throw a ball into a hoop or get that ball across the line. Everyone wants to know who be the number one. And the best way to find out is, just duke it out. Like your boy Dana says, if you have a corner, like 4 corners, you have basketball here, football here, soccer, and the fight breaks out in that corner, what does everyone do?
And we're going to watch the fight.
Exactly, because it's in our DNA. Fighting is in our DNA. So fighting, there's no little rules that, like cricket, if you hit the wicket, you're out, this and that. Like if you punch someone in the face, everyone worldwide knows what that means. Even in the animal kingdom, everyone knows what that means.
So obviously MMA is having some impact because I saw that you just bought a McLaren automobile, and it's kind of funny. I just sold mine, so you and I could have had McLaren together, but I just got rid of mine. So.
What'd you get?
I had I think a 710 was. Yeah.
Have you swapped it or you just sold yours already?
I just sold it. I just got a Honda instead.
Oh, nice, smart man. See, I'm young right now, so I'm like, you know what? This is the best time to get something like that, and enjoy it. Because a lot of people, especially when I hop out of it, they're expecting like an old white guy or a Chinese guy to get out of it, and I'm just like, hi. So I'm young. I'm enjoying myself, and I'm enjoying the fruits of my labor. And something I always wanted a Lamborghini. Actually, that was my vision when I used to like drive my Toyota. I used to envision driving with paddle shifts and have a Aventador. But then driving both of them on the same day, test driving them, the McLaren just felt way smoother. And it's a Kiwi car as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Kiwi invented. The factory is actually in London now, but it's a Kiwi that made that car. So, yeah, it's a beautiful ride. It's a smooth ride.
How do you kind of work this? Like you're getting rich, so you grow up most of your life, you don't have a lot of money. I know you weren't dirt poor, but you didn't have a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden you do, and you can buy whatever you want. How do you do it so that you make sure that you don't end up like, hey, Mike Tyson made $300 million and lost his fortune. How do you be able to enjoy your success, buy the McLarens, have a nice jewelry and whatever you want to have, and still be, when you're 60 years old like me, be able to drive a nice Honda Accord?
Have a really good accountant, have a really good financial advisor, which I do. But also, I've kind of had my own epiphany once I turned 28. I'm glad like all this is happening for me. I'm 30 now. Once I turned 28, I had this metamorphosis where I felt like I literally on my birthday, I switched. I became a man. It was a weird thing with dancing and music, and I came out of my cocoon. But if I was 23 or 22 and I had all this now, it would definitely not be that bad statistic. Right. But as a 30-year-old now, I realized we came up on the era of MTV Cribs and Pimp My Ride. And I always assumed like when I visioned all this, I thought like, man, I'm gonna get 7 cars for each day of the week. I've got houses now, but they're for investment reasons. But as I've turned 30 now, I'm like, man, I like my Pathfinder, my Nissan Pathfinder. I like my McLaren. That's my little flex whip. And I like, the life I lead. So I'm smarter now. I'm smarter with my money. Unlike some people who grew up, as the youngest UFC champion, and then they had all the millions
I'm not sure who you're talking about there.
Who knows what we're talking about? Crashing into pregnant ladies and, grabbing strippers by the pussy and shit like that. I wouldn't do that because I'm smarter now, I wasn't young, dumb, and full of cum. Unlike some people, understand? So, yeah, I'm glad everything's happening for me now that I'm older and wiser. And granted, I do make my own mistakes, but I learn from them every single time. And I'm smarter with the decisions I make, put it that way.
Well, let's put the cards on the table here. Since you brought John Jones up, let's put the cards on the table. I think a lot of people want to see a fight between the two of you because you're what I think John Jones was 10 years ago, right?
Wanted to be.
Right. What
he wanted to be.
When John came out, I remember he fought at UFC 87, and Dean Albrecht was the manager of the guy he fought, Andre Guzmão. And Albrecht,
I remember that.
And he called me before the fight, and he said, where do you see this Andre Guzmão? He's a capoeira fighter. He does this. So I'm like looking to see, and I forget who Jones was scheduled to fight, but the opponent drops out, and Jones, like 5 days notice, takes the fight. So I was kind of disappointed because I wanted to see Guzmão against somebody good, and I have no idea who this Jones guy is.
Yeah.
And I get in there, and I was blown away by John Jones, how big and rangy he was and the things he could do in the cage.
Double overhook.
Right.
Lateral drops. Yeah.
And then when you came in and fighting Rob Wilkinson, and I'm going, who the hell is this guy? And it was like almost, the same thing over again. So that means people want to see the two of you fight.
I want to see it.
You think it's realistic?
100%. It's going to happen next year, 2021, at Raider Stadium. I've said it, and I've put it out there. International Fight Week. That's the fight. And look, like you, it was St. Pierre Penn to UFC 94. That's when I saw him fight live on pay-per-view for the first time.
Stephen Bonner,
Stephen Bonner. And I saw that as well, and I was like, damn, this guy's good. Look what he's doing. Oh, spinning elbow. Oh, snap. He hit him with the trips, everything. And it was just a beautiful fight. And that made me a fan. But then he was a fan, too. He saw the work I was doing, and he was like, man, I like this kid. But then he realized that's the money fight.
Right.
And I never really had that as a goal. Kind of like I never had Silva as a fight in my mind.
Right.
But then I realized he called me out. Okay, cool. That's the fight now. And then his antics over the last year against me, I'm like, well, I mean, you can fight me, but if you want to take it down that road, cool. So he lost a fan, and yeah, he's still a fan. I know he watches every single thing I do.
The one thing that I think is tough in MMA, especially in the higher weight classes that you're in, there's 20 pounds difference between you. He's talking, he said to me the other day, if he beats Dominic Reyes, he was going to go up to fight at heavyweight. He wanted to fight Stipe Miocic. And he told me, without me asking him, he would probably come in around 235 for that fight. So if he gets to 235, he's 50 pounds bigger than you are, right? When you fight. How is it possible that he could then get back and be able to fight you at some point?
I mean, he'll be 50 pounds slower. Weight's never been an issue for me. I fought a guy like Bryant at heavyweight in boxing. I've won a kickboxing heavyweight tournament, for Australasia, the Oceanic region. So and I'm waiting for that fight fully closed with a box of Dunkin' Donuts. So weight's never been an issue for me. It's not really about size.
So
does
you're fighting
matter.
Minto. You say you
Brian Minto, yeah, I beat him. I beat him in a boxing fight.
He's a Pittsburgh guy. That's where
yeah,
I'm from. So
Australia. Yeah, and he's still. I won that fight, but I whooped his ass. But that's the thing. They're slower. They don't. The IQ at that level. Sometimes they're lacking. They're lacking at certain things. And size does matter, but a lot of other things matter as well that we can take advantage of. So for me, it's a challenge. He's never gone to heavyweight. He's been in the game.
Right.
10 plus years,
yeah.
And he's cleaned out this division probably twice over, and he's never stepped up. And you're expecting me to step up straight away? I'm not like what's his name, Mayweather versus Canelo. You know what they did to him when he was really
21
young.
years old.
Exactly. I'm not stupid. I've seen the game. I understand how this works. That's why I said let me do right by my division, because already it was held up by the former champion because he was pulling out of the
Getting
fights
injured all the time.
and exactly the game. But yeah, I want to do right by the division, keep it active, and beat all these killers I have in front of me. And then eventually I'll step up, which he's never done.
Right.
And he says he's going to do, but he's never done. So I'm going to do that because I've done it in boxing, I've done it in kickboxing, and I'm going to do it in MMA, regardless of belt or weight.
Well, the fight I want to see even more than you against Jones, and I think that you against Jones could be a fight that would challenge the UFC pay-per-view record.
It'll blow everything out the water.
I think it would have a chance to do that, yeah. But the fight I want to see is you and Paulo Costa.
I'm looking
and
forward to
you
that.
guys were on the same card. He was on the pay-per-view card. You were on the card. The Ultimate Fighter finale was an International Fight Week last year, right?
Yeah, it was.
And
not last year, 2018.
18,
yeah,
okay.
Brought
And
Tavares.
you guys had kind of had a little bit of a talking there. Is that a fight you think is in your future if you get past Romero? And is that a fight that you think would be a big seller with the fans?
He was supposed to be next. He was right there. I mean, like I said, International Fight Week, I think it was 226. I saw him right after his fight. He was all busted up after being jabbed by Uriah Hall. And he was right there. And I was talking about him, looking at him, and he just iced me completely. And, yeah, I saw him again after my last fight. I let him know what's up, flipping the birds. And then, yeah, he was barking at the fans. And then, oh, no, my bicep. I hurt my bicep, bro. Oh, I'm going to be out for 9 months. And then miraculously, within 2 months, he's healed. Amazing how that works, isn't it? But, he's a guy that definitely I want to fight as well, because I think people are still they're fooled by this Hollywood facade of muscles. It's been ingrained in us since we're kids, from Schwarzenegger, from Rambo,
Got the
Stallone.
big guy.
He must be tough. And that's why Anderson Silva changed the way I saw fighting, because I saw the skinny black guy whooping everyone's ass, and I was like, well, I'm a skinny black guy. I might whoop everyone's ass. And I did, and I have been, and I still am. So, yeah, that's fight. I'm looking forward to that fight. He's a guy that, like I said, Uriah Hall was jabbing him, but Uriah Hall didn't really follow up properly, and he's a guy that needs a stationary target.
Right.
So you stand right there, I'm going to hit you, or you fall down. Okay, bye.
But
I'm
if
not
you're
like
moving
that. Hey, you can't see me.
That's why Derek Brunson looked lost when he fought you, because you were giving him so much movement.
Exactly.
The angles you were throwing.
He cheated so many times. Like a lot of these guys use quote unquote venom moves. But you saw Derek Brunson. First thing he did, he grabbed my shorts, and it wasn't until the second time I looked at Herb and I told him he's done it twice. And he's like, but I didn't grab. But he was already shook.
Right.
They're already shook. They can't touch me. But in time, I've said everything I'm going to do, and I keep doing it over and over again. But in time, they'll find out.
Let's wrap with this. You're obviously wearing that Lakers jacket.
Yeah, this is Mitchell and Ness, courtesy of Paradigm Sports.
It's a beautiful jacket. I love that.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll have to see if Paradigm Sports has that on the website to buy.
We got you, bro. We got you. Easy
But
as.
I guess the question would be this. Kobe Bryant, you're not a basketball fan, but you were inspired by Kobe Bryant. You
Yeah.
say you have some. What did Kobe mean to you?
So for me, when I first joined the gym, early on, Twister, one of my striking coaches, kept on saying, Nigerian Mamba, you're the Mamba. And I was like, I didn't really get what that meant.
Right.
And then he said that was Kobe's nickname, the Black Mamba. And I was like, I know the snake, they're very, very aggressive, they have the black mouth, their venom is potent,
The quick strike.
and they go after you. And he talked about the Mamba mentality. So I kind of learned that from Twist about what Kobe does. And then Kobe as well, he transcends sports.
Right.
I mean, even in China, they used to look at me and go, oh, basketball, Kobe Bryant. I was like, no, I don't play basketball. But he transcends sports in so many ways. And for me, it was just the day, it was in the morning when I heard about it. It was just weird. For me, it was just weird and I had to go spar right after that.
Right.
And it was just a weird sparring session because you just couldn't believe it, like someone that iconic. And no one is immune to Father Time. When your time comes, unfortunately, your time comes. But yeah, for the world, I think the world lost an icon that day. And even in LA, you can still feel it a little bit. I was at the Staples Center last night. The Clippers played, but it wasn't really as packed as it normally is.
Right.
It's still a little lull from the losses had.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. Such is life, unfortunately.
UFC 248. They will be out in force to see this man, Israel Adesanya, the
As
UFC
always.
middleweight champ. Don't miss it. Thanks, bud.
Easy ass. Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate
stuff.
it, brother. No worries.